You've been lied to. Every motivational poster, every self-help guru, every wellness influencer who told you to just think positive and everything will work out. They weren't helping you, they were silencing you. Toxic positivity is not optimism. It is emotional suppression wearing a smile. 2,000 years ago, a group of philosophers in ancient Rome discovered something the modern world desperately needs to remember. They didn't tell you to smile through your pain. They didn't tell you to visualize success while your life crumbled. They told you to stare directly into the darkness and find your strength there. Truth over comfort. Today, the wellness industry has hijacked their ideas and turned them into shallow affirmations that do more harm than good. But the original philosophy, it was anything but comfortable. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why fake optimism is a poison, and why honest pessimism might just save your life. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Let's begin. The smiling prison. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is smiling, but behind those smiles, people are drowning. Their marriages are failing, their anxiety is crushing them, their grief is eating them alive. But nobody says a word because the rule is simple: stay positive. Never show weakness, never admit pain. This is the world toxic positivity has built. A world where saying I'm struggling is treated as a moral failure, where admitting you're afraid means you lack faith, where honest emotions are treated like diseases that need to be cured with affirmations. Good vibes only is the most dangerous phrase of our generation. Studies from the University of California, Berkeley found that people who habitually suppress negative emotions experience higher levels of anxiety, depression, and even physical illness. The very act of forcing positivity creates a psychological pressure cooker. You push the pain down and it doesn't disappear, it transforms. It becomes chronic stress, unexplained anger, emotional numbness, and here's the cruel irony. The people who need help the most are the ones who have been trained never to ask for it. But there was once a philosophy that understood this perfectly. The Stoic truth. In ancient Rome, a slave named Epictetus taught something revolutionary. He didn't say ignore your suffering. He didn't say pretend everything is fine. He said something far more powerful. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters. Read that again carefully. He didn't say don't feel pain. He said your response to pain is where your power lies. This is the fundamental difference that the modern world has completely missed. Stoicism was never about suppressing emotions. It was about understanding them. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote his private journal filled with fear, doubt, and grief. He didn't hide from darkness, he studied it. Seneca wrote letters about death, loss, and the fragility of life, not to depress his readers, but to prepare them. The Stoics believed that only by facing reality honestly could you develop genuine resilience. Face reality honestly. If this ancient wisdom is opening your eyes to something you felt but couldn't name, hit like and subscribe to keep exploring the depths of human wisdom. Because what comes next reveals how badly we corrupted these ideas. The Great Corruption. So how did we get from Seneca's profound wisdom to Instagram affirmations? How did we turn a philosophy of radical honesty into a cult of fake smiles? It started in the 20th century. The self-help industry discovered that positivity sells. Books promising happiness through positive thinking became bestsellers. Workshops charging thousands told people to visualize success and it would magically appear. The message was intoxicating. You don't need to change your circumstances, just change your thoughts. Think positive and the universe will provide. But here's what they deliberately left out. The Stoics never said your thoughts create reality. They said your thoughts determine your response to reality. There's an enormous difference. One prepares you for life, the other hides you from it. The wellness industry took a philosophy built on courage and turned it into a philosophy built on denial. They replaced Seneca's unflinching gaze at death with vision boards. They replaced Marcus Aurelius's brutal self-examination with morning mantras. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane. And the damage this corruption has caused is far worse than most people realize. The hidden damage. A woman loses her child. Her friends tell her everything happens for a reason. A man loses his job after 20 years. He's told to stay positive because the universe has something better planned. A teenager battles depression. She's told to just choose happiness. Invalidated, silenced, alone. Do you see what's happening here? Toxic positivity doesn't comfort people, it abandons them. Psychologist Susan David from Harvard found that emotional rigidity, the inability to process difficult emotions, is one of the strongest predictors of depression and burnout. When you tell someone to just be positive, what they actually hear is your pain doesn't matter. Your feelings are wrong. You are broken for feeling this way. Toxic positivity creates shame around the most natural human experiences. Grief becomes weakness, fear becomes failure, sadness becomes something to hide, and slowly, person by person, we build a society where nobody is allowed to be human. The Stoics would have been horrified by this, because they understood something the positive thinking crowd never will. Negative visualization. The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, they would deliberately imagine the worst things that could happen to them. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. They visualized losing their wealth, their health, their loved ones. They imagined exile, poverty, death. Now a toxic positivity advocate would call this destructive thinking. They'd say you're manifesting negativity. But here's what research actually shows. This practice works. A study published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin found that people who mentally rehearse negative outcomes show greater emotional resilience when those outcomes actually occur. Defensive pessimism, as psychologists call it, outperforms naive optimism in nearly every measurable way. People who prepare for the worst handle adversity better than those who expect the best. The Stoics weren't pessimists. They were realists who understood that life is unpredictable, fragile, and often brutal. And they knew that the only way to face that truth was to stop running from it. Stop running from truth. But this goes even deeper than you might think. The gratitude trap. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Just be grateful for what you have. Practice gratitude every morning. Count your blessings, and there's truth in this. Genuine gratitude is powerful, but toxic positivity has weaponized gratitude into a silencing tool. Can't complain because others have it worse. Can't grieve because you should be thankful. This is what psychologists call comparative suffering. The idea that your pain doesn't count because someone somewhere has it worse, but here's what they won't tell you. Pain is not a competition, and suffering doesn't require justification. Seneca understood this brilliantly. He practiced gratitude not by denying difficulty, but by acknowledging that everything good in life is temporary. We should enjoy what we have while we have it, knowing that nothing lasts forever. Real Stoic gratitude comes from facing impermanence honestly, not from pasting a smile over genuine struggles. Real gratitude faces death. The difference is everything. One builds strength. The other builds a facade that crumbles at the first sign of real hardship. And speaking of real hardship, there's one area where this difference becomes a matter of life and death. The mental health crisis. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. We live in the most positive era in human history. Social media is flooded with motivational quotes. Self-help is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Meditation apps have hundreds of millions of downloads, and yet, anxiety rates have doubled in the last decade. Depression is now the leading cause of disability worldwide. Loneliness has reached epidemic levels. 1. Anxiety rates doubled in 10 years. 2. Depression is the leading cause of disability. 3. Loneliness is now a public health crisis. How is this possible? If positive thinking works, why is everyone getting worse? Because toxic positivity doesn't heal, it numbs. It teaches people to disconnect from their emotions instead of processing them. It creates a generation that doesn't know how to sit with discomfort, how to grieve properly, how to be genuinely vulnerable with another human being. We've become so afraid of negative emotions that we've lost the ability to feel anything real. The Stoics warned about exactly this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the obstacle is the way, meaning that growth comes through difficulty, not around it. But what does honest pessimism actually look like in practice? Honest pessimism. There's a psychologist named Julie Norham who spent decades studying what she calls defensive pessimism. These are people who expect the worst, and then use that expectation as fuel. Honest pessimism is not despair. It is preparation with open eyes. Defensive pessimists don't collapse under pressure. They plan for it. They think about what could go wrong and create strategies. They don't waste energy maintaining an illusion of control. They build actual competence for when things fall apart, and the research is stunning. Defensive pessimists perform just as well as strategic optimists on complex tasks, but here's the difference. When things go wrong, defensive pessimists recover faster. Recover faster, stronger. Because they were ready, because they didn't build their confidence on the fantasy that nothing bad would happen. They built it on the certainty that they could handle whatever did. True confidence doesn't come from believing nothing will go wrong. It comes from knowing you'll survive when it does. A man who has experienced shipwreck shudders even at a calm sea. This is exactly what the Stoics practiced, and it leads us to the most powerful idea of all. Amor fati. The Stoics didn't just accept negative emotions, they went further. They embraced everything that happened to them. Nietzsche called it amor fati, the love of fate, not just tolerating suffering, but recognizing it as essential to becoming who you're meant to be. Do not seek for everything to happen as you wish, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. This is the ultimate answer to toxic positivity. You don't need to pretend life is beautiful when it's crushing you. You don't need to fake a smile when your world is falling apart. Pressure creates diamonds. What you need is the courage to say, "This is hard, this hurts, I am struggling," and then in the same breath, "I will face this, I will learn from this, I will grow through this." Face, learn, grow. That's not optimism, that's not pessimism, that's something far more powerful. It's philosophical courage. The strength to face reality without flinching is the rarest form of bravery. And this brings us to the most important question of all. The real choice. So where does this leave you? You now stand at a crossroads that most people never even see. On one side, the comfortable path. Keep scrolling through motivational quotes, keep suppressing what you really feel, keep telling yourself it's all going to work out without doing the hard work of examining your life. Stay comfortable, stay asleep, stay broken. On the other side, the stoic path, the harder path, the path where you look at your life honestly and admit what isn't working, where you sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of running from them, where you prepare for the worst while working toward the best. The unexamined life is not worth living, and neither is the unfelt one. Seneca spent his final hours talking about philosophy with his friends, not pretending death wasn't coming. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire while writing honestly about his doubts and fears. Epictetus endured slavery and emerged with a freedom no one could ever take. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. They didn't need toxic positivity. They had something infinitely more powerful. They had the truth. They had truth. The modern world wants you comfortable, numb, and smiling. The Stoics wanted you awake, honest, and unbreakable. Toxic positivity tells you to suppress the storm inside. Stoicism teaches you to become the kind of person who walks through storms without pretending they are sunshine. Unbreakable. From this moment forward, you have permission to feel what you actually feel, to say what you actually think, to stop performing happiness and start building genuine resilience. Because the truth, even when it's painful, even when it's terrifying, is always more powerful than the most beautiful lie. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The Stoics didn't just teach philosophy. They taught a way of being human that the world has nearly forgotten. Don't let it be forgotten. If you made it this far, comment amor veritatis, love of truth, to prove you're among those brave enough to face reality without flinching. Amor veritatis, the wisdom of the ages is yours, use it well. If this unlocks something in you, subscribe for more. The vault has more wisdom waiting.